This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
Hello and welcome to The Shift, the podcast that aims to tell the no-holds-barred truth about being a woman post-40. Created and hosted by me, journalist and author Sam Baker. For many of us, losing our memory is our worst nightmare. To be told that it's happening when you're still young-ish is close to unimaginable. That's what happened to this week's guest, writer, teacher, and reader in residence at Charleston, Holly Dawson. Holly was just 40 when she started to lose her grasp of where she was. She was ultimately diagnosed with epilepsy. A scan of her brain revealed a benign tumour, and she found herself faced with the prospect of losing both her memory and her words. Words had always been her friend, and they were her main source of income. So Holly set out to build a picture of herself while she still could, from childhood to womanhood. Daughter, bookworm, dancer, gardener, mother. And the result is her memoir of sorts, All of Us Atoms.
It sort of takes all the elements that I love about writing, but puts it into an arena where I don't care if I'm good or not, and I don't have to achieve anything. So all of those elements of creativity and problem solving and resourcefulness and composing little spaces, what goes where, what's going to grow where, what is thriving, what isn't, what do I need to edit in the garden? It takes all of those elements that I love and I'm naturally drawn towards. But by doing it in the garden, it's a space where if I mess up, it doesn't matter. If something doesn't work, it doesn't matter. It's all part of the fun.
Holly overcame her reluctance to talk about herself, to discuss the moment she started to lose her words, how it felt to fail the memory test after a lifetime of not failing anything, the toxic myth of the straight line, having her first natural period at 40, her love of digging and chickens, why it took until her 40s to realise she doesn't have to be good at everything, and why she will not be giving up anything for love. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have to just say, you look a lot less scary than your author photo.
Yes.
Yes, you do. You look quite fierce in your author photo.
Actually, that was on purpose.
I figured, yeah.
It was an interesting process. I absolutely hate being photographed. Absolutely hate it. And my friend is a photographer and she has this amazing kind of feminist approach to photographing women.
Oh.
So she brought me basically a mood board of female author headshots. And she said, what do you notice about all of these?
Oh, are they all smiling and going like this?
Yeah, no, they're all smiling. They're all smiling, but they're also looking, they're all always half turned or like looking slightly away. And then she said, look at this page. And it was all male photos. She said, what do you notice? No.
Oh, right. Face on.
All of them were face on. They were all really strong. And then she showed me one of Donna Tartt, who I adore. Arms folded, in a suit, outside.
I can picture that photo, yeah.
And she said, so what do you want to be? And I was like, okay, come on, let's do it. Let's do it. So we went with that. And funnily enough, shortly after, a private commission for another book asked me for my author photo. And let's say the demographic of the person who asked me was very different to, and I sent him that one. And he said, no, where's nice Holly gone?
Oh. And that's precisely why you went for that picture.
It was really interesting to see that reaction. So yeah, strong, I don't know, fierce, I don't know. It's not me, because I'm like actually very animated and giggly and silly and just like, oh, you're taking my photo.
Yeah, you do look, it's interesting because you look like a completely different person.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. This is really inappropriate as I don't know you. I'm just, you do look like, can you just fucking get on with it?
Yeah.
Like, just like, well, I just thought, oh no, she's going to be looking at me that whole way this afternoon. Like, oh, you just fucking get on with it and get out of my life.
No, but that's like the Donna Tartt one. You know,
yeah.
If I looked at that and then had to interview Donna Tartt, I'd just be like, oh God, she's going to shut down every question.
But do you know that she wouldn't?
No, I don't know.
I think she would.
I think she probably would. Maybe that's the difference, yeah. But I think Deborah Levy as well, you know, she's got like a real sort of gravitas to her orthophoto.
Yeah.
But she is quite scary. I love her, but she is
I was going to say, I absolutely love her.
Yeah.
Absolutely love her. And I love her books, but she is quite scary.
She is quite scary.
Yeah. Oh. But we'll just ramble away for the next hour and then go, oh shit, we didn't actually talk about your book. It's like...
And I will be very happy, because talking about my book is my least favourite thing to do. So
okay. And is that more least favourite, she says incoherently, than talking about yourself, or are the two the same as far as you're concerned?
I think it's the same. I'm a natural deflector.
All right. Okay. Good to know.
When you ask me about my book, I can say, oh, tell me about yours.
No, I'm not going to fall for that. I'm much too long in the tooth for that. Worth a try.
It feels really indulgent and ego-y to talk about me by me. And certainly in the book, what I was trying to achieve was, because that's something I was like, I'm not writing a memoir. It's not a memoir. Don't call it a memoir. Because I wanted it to broaden out into something more collective or more pluralistic. So I think that's why I tend to, if I'm talking about the book with somebody, I tend to talk about the generic experience of everyone's life and how we connect and how we deal with things and make sense of things, rather than my own one.
Is that because you felt like, I don't know, is it that you feel like it's too like boasty big head to write a memoir, or is it because you feel like you shouldn't? Why is that? It's interesting. I get it.
Yeah, but it's a really interesting question, and I don't know if I've fully resolved it, because I love reading other people's memoirs. I think that it's about your intention, and for me, my intention wasn't to document my life in the first person from beginning to end and say these are all the things. It was more a process of meaning making at a time when I needed to make sense of things, and a way of kind of imagining that life is a glass ball that you can hold in your hand and shift it and see how light refracts and colours change and what's reflected in with each angle, with each perspective. So it's sort of that, turning around existence in your hand and saying, what if I looked at it from underneath? What if I looked at it from this direction? What if I looked at it through a prism of light rather than seeing anything dark? What if I noticed tiny minutiae that I only noticed because I've really focused on it? So I think it was more that.
I don't think you used the word I at all. And I think you hardly ever used, you definitely did use the word me, but only like probably I could count them on one hand. Yeah. Is that why?
Yeah. So the book is a collection of pieces. They're not quite essays. They're not quite stories. It's something hybrid between the two.
Yeah, but how you described it just now is when you were describing it as like a glass ball that you could look at from different directions with different light refracting through it. That actually, I thought that was a really good description of the book, because that's almost how the book is built. It's not a narrative, but it's not essays. And it's not even, I mean, it is fragments, but it isn't. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's why it's a hard one to describe and quite a hard one to sell.
Oh, I bet publishers love that.
It doesn't really fit into a genre. I think, booksellers don't really know where to put it. And I think it's just one of those things, you have to read it. And then when you read it, you either get it or you don't. And when people get it, it's in a really kind of beautiful form of connection that I've found since it came out. Just every day someone random just messages me or emails me and just says, oh my goodness, I've just finished this. I'm now going to buy it for everyone. I don't know how to describe it, but it's had an impact. Yeah, I guess I'm quite happy that it can't be pigeonholed.
What was it that made you think somebody resistant, talking about themselves and didn't want to write a memoir, didn't want to be big I am? What made you want to sit down and capture these memories on the page?
Well, it was a process of accident followed by intention. So a lot of these pieces just started in my journal or came directly from my journal. This is naturally how I write. So I've kept diaries since I was 11. I've got hundreds of the things cluttering everywhere up. But I've always, I don't know why, but I've always moved between points of view and pronouns in my diary. So sometimes it will be I, sometimes it will be she, sometimes it will be you. It's just how I process things, I think. So I've always been looking at the refraction of an experience rather than the direct portrayal of an experience. So I had all these pieces. Some of them I thought, yeah, maybe there's something in these. Maybe there's something in these. And I started to put them together at a time when I felt like I had very little tangibility to hold on to or to ground myself in. So I'd just been diagnosed with, ultimately with epilepsy, with a bunch of things, but the main problem was epilepsy.
How old were you then?
This was only 6 years ago. First of all, I had Lyme disease. And this is during lockdown. I had Lyme disease. And then I started having seizures. Then I had an MRI. And the doctor just said, oh yeah, we found a tumour on your brain. And I was, that's quite big news to get over the phone. Any more information about that?
Yeah.
And it was during COVID. So he said, well, there's a 46-month waiting list to see a neurologist. And I sort of said, am I going to die?
Yeah.
We don't know.
But you can't see a neurologist for 46 months, but we don't know if you're going to die.
So Fantastic. This was all going on, and I'm a single parent. I've got 2 boys at home, raising them. My eldest he's gone back to college now, but he was out of school for 4 years, so he was at home a lot. So there was just a lot of precarity and a lot of things to try and figure out and make sense of. And then my memory started going. It began with just silly things like procedural stuff, forgetting how to make a cup of coffee, forgetting how the toaster worked, opening the fridge, staring at it, not knowing why I'd gone in there, leaving the bath tap on, silly things really. And we all do that. And we think, I'm just a bit stressed or I'm a bit preoccupied. And then my words started going. And when my words started going, I thought everything was going to go, because I'd built my identity around, basically, I'm just words and a spade. Like, that's who I am. I happen to have a body, but I've ignored it for 40 years. My ability to think and articulate stuff and dig stuff. And if I can't do those things, what's left and what am I and what will I be? So I think that just gave additional urgency really to getting stuff down.
So when you say your words started to go, how did that manifest?
Well, it's still ongoing. So there's a couple of things. The main one is I can't grasp a word. It's as if before I had the whole of the English language at my disposal in these well-filed, well-thumbed files that I could just flick through and instantly get the right one. Since my brain started going wonky, all those files are just all over the floor in a right old mess. So retrieving the right word is similar to going into a sort of trashed office and saying, I know that file is here somewhere, but I'm just going to have to search around for it for a while and I might never find it. So when I was diagnosed, my neurologist did describe my temporal lobe epilepsy as saying that there's a library in your brain. And in your case, the librarian is on strike. So it was, I think, it became part of the motivation anyway.
Did that come out of nowhere?
Yeah. It escalated. It escalated as time went on, because the more seizures I had, the more the library wasn't just... The librarian wasn't on strike, the library was on fire.
Yeah, they'd sacked the librarian.
They sacked the librarian. They'd moved to an automated self-scanning service and turned off the machines.
Yeah, they'll be using ChatGPT next, and then you'll be in real trouble.
So yeah, I think that gave a purpose to all these diary ramblings. And then putting them together was a form of making meaning, trying to make sense, trying to create a wholeness out of what increasingly felt dislocated, displaced.
In the book, you talk about the memory test that the doctor gave you.
Yes.
And failing it.
Yes.
And it was, when you say I've never failed anything before, I've never been below average in anything before. And I just, for like a fellow girly swat,
yes,
that was really like, that was a real kind of gut punch. It was like, oh my God, yes. And that's how you saw it. You saw it as a, like, failing this test.
Yeah, hugely. Because I knew that my memory, you know, and my word recall, I knew that it wasn't great, but I just thought it wasn't great for me. And if my average was kind of pretty good, then it might just be less than my average. But to find out, actually, no, I was really way below, in fact, bottom percentile, was really a surprise. And, you know, you're in the waiting room and you're there with people in their 80s and 90s. I was the youngest in the waiting room by about 60 years. And you just think, not now, not me, not yet.
Is it stabilized? Is it slowly getting worse?
No. So I've got lots of really good tricks now and strategies for my memory, and lots of really silly games that I play every single day in my head. So every day I take the dog for a walk. I live in a tiny village. I know everyone. As I pass each house, I have to make myself remember the name of the person in the house and the name of their pet. And if I can't do it, I'll stand by their house for a bit, which probably makes me look rather creepy. Just admiring your roses. I don't know. I'm trying to think what your name is. So I try and sort of give myself little tests like that. And then also just make fanatical use of Post-its. I have Post-its everywhere, which even say things like, you know, turn off the tap because I've put the bath on. I have to say like turn the tap off or turn the oven off. But that's fine. I'm happy with that now. The nice side effect is that it brings the children into that way of processing things as well. I think any form of cognitive strengthening helps everybody, even if your brain isn't impaired. It's a good strategy to learn when you're young.
Because you had just left their dad and moved across the country, hadn't you? Or not long?
Not across
when
the
country.
It happened. No, it was quite a long time after that, actually.
Right. So you moved were you in Cornwall and you moved to Sussex?
No.
Have I got that right? Asked about it.
Don't worry. I left Cornwall when I was 18 and I left Cornwall when I was 18 and then lived in South Africa, lived in London, lived in France, lived in Brighton, and then ended up out in the sticks on the South Downs, more chickens to speak to than people, and that is a good ratio.
Yeah, I can get that. And I was interested in, were you a gardener before all of this, or is gardening something that's become more important to you?
Yeah, no, I wasn't really. My gran always was, you know, my mum is, but I'd always lived very urbanly. I would try having a few pots of unsuccessful basil.
Basil always dies, doesn't it? It's just so disappointing, basil.
Yeah, very disappointing. But no, it was just moving here to this house in particular, to this cottage we rent off the estate here. And when we arrived, the garden had just been completely sort of bulldozed and burnt because it was in such a bad shape before we moved in. And so, we moved in during lockdown and discovered we had half an acre of essentially dead earth and set about bringing it back to life. And now, if I haven't dug in a day, I'll be ratty. I have to dig. I have to be muddy.
Is it digging in particular? Because you've mentioned digging in spades a few times, so it's the mud, not plants so much.
Yeah, no, plants don't really survive very long because I've got so many chickens. We rescue chickens and I've just got more than I can count, and they will dig up everything in the garden. I think there's something it sort of takes all the elements that I love about writing, but puts it into an arena where I don't care if I'm good or not, and I don't have to achieve anything. So all of those elements of creativity and problem solving and resourcefulness and composing little spaces, what goes where, what's going to grow where, what is thriving, what isn't, what do I need to edit in the garden? It takes all of those elements that I love and I'm naturally drawn towards. But by doing it in the garden, it's a space where if I mess up, it doesn't matter. If something doesn't work, it doesn't matter. It's all part of the fun. I think it's the first thing in my life where I haven't had to be good at something. And it's taken to my 40s to realize that you can have those things.
So, I don't know, it's kind of, on the one hand, it's quite sad, but on the other hand, it's so familiar. I think that it takes until this kind of stage to go, oh, do you know what? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Everything's not a race or a gold star or a...
And there's a tangible forgiveness to being outside, to the garden. It's endlessly forgiving because it moves in cycles and circles. I think that's why I need it. I think it's the antidote to the really toxic linearity that we grow up with, that we adhere to without thinking. All of those organizing principles of our life, capitalism and achievement and progress and governance and patriarchy. Let's not forget that a straight line is essentially an erect penis. I mean, that's what everything, the idea that everything will be linear, neat and consequential. And that, I think, is what I realized in my 40s. That's been the liberation, is going, no, it's not. That's not how things work. Everything is messy and everything is circular. Time is circular, not a line. It only became a line in the late 1800s when we had to have train timetables and uniform time across cities. Time didn't work like that before. So time is circular and flowing. Our bodies are circular and flowing, particularly the female body. Our minds are messy and mercurial. My hair is a mess. My house is a mess. Nothing conforms to straight lines in reality. And yet it's almost this sort of, I don't know, pretty toxic myth that is so embedded in how we are meant to live and what we are taught to expect from ourselves, from our bodies, from our lives. You do this and this will happen. You do this, this will happen. And this linearity is also the root of all our physical and mental well-being. You know, the whole idea of diagnosis is this is the line. If you're not on that line, there's a dysfunction there. No, I'm human because I'm messy and that's normal for me. So I think there's been something through being ill, through reaching my 40s and through trying to make sense of mess, in which there came a point where I thought, maybe it's not a bad thing. You know, I'm normally quite resourceful, that if something isn't quite right, I'll do a lot of work and thinking and working out why it isn't right and try and fix it. But if I've got to 42 and my hair is still a mess, my garden is a mess, my house is a mess, my thinking is a mess, and my body is a mess. If I've got to 42, it must be a sign that either that messiness is normal or that I'm happy to embrace it. And I'm a freelancer, you know, even my career is a mess. Everything is chaotic. So I think I spent all my 20s and my 30s, definitely my 20s, going, why can't I conform to what's right and normal? Why am I getting everything so wrong? Why can't I stay in a relationship? Why can't I be like the other mums in the antenatal group? Why can't I do my hair nicely? Why don't I do the dishes? You know, why does my emotional graph go up and down and up and down? All of these things that you question yourself because you think, well, everyone else is getting something right and I'm not getting it. And then you feel blame, you feel shame, you feel a massive drop in your self-esteem. You wonder who you are as a person and why you're failing. And then actually you get to 42 and you think, well, I've bloody well survived. And I'm actually doing really well. And it's messy, but maybe that's how it's meant to be. And I feel great in it now.
This episode of The Shift is sponsored by Shopify. It's that time of year again, I know. And let's face it, it can be really overwhelming. So the sooner you get things done, the better. And there's no better time to get a good deal, whether you're a shopper or a business, than Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. Whether you're an established business or a startup, the most important thing you need is a platform that can handle everything that's heading your way. Out of stock just as orders pour in? Or a site that can't keep up with demand? Make sure your platform is ready for anything and everything that comes your way during the busiest weekend of the year with Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, from household names like Heinz to entrepreneurs like Skims and Allbirds, to startups who will be experiencing their first Black Friday Cyber Monday this year. Don't have time to spend hours poring over every little detail? Who does? Shopify has thousands of templates and tools to help streamline website creation, making sure your site isn't just aesthetically pleasing, but functional too. And you can stress less, knowing that Shopify's award-winning customer support team is on standby 24/7 to help get you back to business as fast as possible. If you want to give customers the best experience possible this holiday season, you need Shopify. This Black Friday, join the thousands of new entrepreneurs hearing for the first time with Shopify. Sign up for your free trial today at shopify.co.uk/shift. That's shopify.co.uk/shift. Go to shopify.co.uk/shift and make this Black Friday one to remember. You grew up in I never know whether it's matriarchy or matriarchy, with your gran and your mum and your auntie. And it didn't sound like, from the book, it doesn't sound like they enforced those kind of ideals on you. So where did that come from? Where did that start?
Honestly, I think it's just an insidious part of being alive in our society.
Yeah.
I think that school very quickly drills it into you. I think all the other ways we have to calibrate success or who we are through what you do and not what you feel.
Yeah, it's not who, apologies to anybody listening who's heard me say this before, but it isn't. We never ever ask anybody who they are, do we? We always ask them what they do. It's the very first thing we say.
Exactly.
It's like, what's your label?
Yes. And I think because I was very much brought up, incredible experience, I think, of being brought up outside of categories. Not to say that my childhood was, bohemian and unconventional. It wasn't that. It's just that I had women around me who had learned how to survive and thrive outside of categories or despite of categories. And they taught me very young that no one gets to tell you who you are or what box you're in, or that you need to be this way because of this, and that everything was always a yes. There was no limitations. There was no sense of, well, no, of course you won't go to university because nobody else has. No one else around here will. It was like, come on, whatever you want, the world is there, and we will do whatever it takes, not just to access it, but to make sure you feel you can access it.
How did they manage that? Because, like you say, neither your maternal grandmother or your mum had those opportunities, had they? They hadn't had.
No.
They'd had difficult lives. Your gran. Tell us a bit about your gran. She sounds pretty amazing.
She was. I think, a lot of the book was about, it sounds silly, not processing her death. It wasn't that. But it was about looking at her from different angles, holding her in my hand and going, but actually who were you? Because your gran is your gran. And it's only as I've got older and, I've had children and I've thought, oh, okay, that's what it's like to be a mother. And now I'm understanding you a bit more, and I'm understanding my mother, and, this sort of procession of understanding and peeling back the layers, and then seeing other people's experience of my gran being very different to my own. Everyone always says that I got the best of her, and I did. She was absolute magic for me, but not for everybody else. And so trying to gain insight into that and an empathy into that and an understanding of that and seeing her as a whole person, not just my person.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I know someone who had a parent die, and they said they kept hearing other people's recollections of that parent. I remember them saying, I don't recognize that person. I don't recognize them because that's not who that person was to me. It's so interesting.
And perhaps that is something that I hope the book has done in some ways, is that how often that happens. We only know people at their funerals. or we only get to build a connection with them after they've gone, or we only have conversations with them in our heads. And I think that that's partly what the book has helped to facilitate for me is, it sounds really soppy. I'm not a sentimental person at all, but the book is quite soppy in places, but I'm not naturally soppy. I'm quite resistant. I'm like the bantery piss take person, not the, oh. But, I was able to write about my mum and for my mum in the book with a tenderness and a love and a compassion and joy and all those things, which in real life I always feel, but I tend to be bantery, piss takey. Oh, don't hug me. Oh yeah, I love you too. All of that. So I think I was able to articulate something on the page, which my mouth sometimes struggles to, which is the real stuff, the good stuff, the stuff you should tell people while you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people will identify with that kind of, the things that you don't say. I mean, your mum and your gran both left marriages with young kids, didn't they? Particularly your gran at a time when people just didn't.
Yeah. No, that's true. And the kind of, culture I grew up in, that was also pretty normal. I think out of everyone in my class in primary school, probably 2 people had parents who were together. So it wasn't that was unusual. When I got to secondary school, it was unusual, but certainly sort of, for our town, for where we were, that wasn't unusual. And so what I grew up with from, toddlerhood onwards is that it was normal to be raised by strong women, by collective women, by neighbors who were aunties, because, everyone was an auntie. Yeah, it's not just about strength or about, the sort of gritty stuff. It's also the lighter stuff. My mum, my auntie and my gran, we had no idea that we were poor. We had no idea that we would fall into lots of categories that you would never want your child to fall into. We had no idea about any of that. We had no idea that, the town I was born in was one of the worst towns. We had no idea because we had paint everywhere and glue and mud and writing and telling stories and reading and the library and we just had endless magic from women who otherwise could have made very different choices, and I would have been very different as a result. And I think that's the thing. They always turned towards the light, always, and still do, always. I had no sense of the darkness. I knew it was there. I actually can't remember most of it. I knew it was there. But mainly I only knew it was there because in hindsight, I saw how much light there was.
Well, it was really interesting about what you were saying about your brother, actually, about him being brought up by loads of women and the pressure on him to kind of be, the idea that woman equal good, man equal bad, and pressure on him to be a good man, and that the kind of 2 types of men, the ones who've gone and the bastards. Did that shape your approach to men as you grew up?
Oh, undoubtedly. I haven't unpicked that one. That's a pretty big question.
That's the next book. Yeah.
No, it won't be the next book. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why it isn't even this book. I could have written a book which was a collection of pieces about bad men. It would have been 6,000 pages long.
Yeah. Can we all? Yeah.
Yeah. And in some ways, a lot of those men have been written out in my diary. That's because I've got to put this shit somewhere. Blah,
Yeah.
But I don't want that in my book. They don't deserve my space or my time. They don't deserve the words that I have to now try very hard to find. They don't belong to me anymore. And in the book, they are only present in their absence. It's a negative space. It was intentional. The only men in the book are either the good men or imagined made up men. So yeah, my brother gets a chapter, which he's very proud of, because he is an absolutely pretty good guy. But then the other men in the book are completely imagined. And I think I say at one point in the book, it's so much easier to imagine men than to know them. You can always make them so nice.
I wanted to ask you about ballet and your body, which in a way almost goes us right back to the beginning where we came in, because you were talking about, when we were talking about losing the words, you were talking about being a brain on legs. But one of the things that struck me was it seems like there's a constant, I don't know. No, but I mean, battle isn't the right word. I've just got a poor vocabulary without the excuse of epilepsy. Between the brain, you as a body and you as a brain, because ballet is something else, isn't it, in terms of what it expects of you, and especially given that you started at what was it, 3?
Yeah, I think I started at 3. I mean, again, that was pretty normal, wasn't it? You said you go off to...
Yeah.
But I think battle is actually exactly the right word. And I think that that's something I'm most relieved by now in my 40s, is that, yeah, it did begin as a battle between my mind and body for, as young as I can remember. I don't know where it came from, because again, the women I grew up with were the opposite. They were very kind of body empowering, no shame, no judgment, love your skin, everything, so I didn't grow up with any toxic doctrine about body image or about embodiment in general. But I know it's been there for as long as my memory exists. I can remember when I was about 5 or 6, hiding in a locker at the swimming pool because I thought I was just so ashamed of my body that I didn't want to go out into the swimming pool. And I hid in a locker. And you just think, well, clearly pretty small, fitted into a locker. So I don't know where that's come from, which has made it quite a lengthy process of trying to untangle it and resolve it. But there's something so great now, oh, come on. I've had times in the past, in my 20s, I wouldn't leave the house because I was just so ashamed of my body. And I just think, what? Why? I think ballet is a huge part of it. But I think ultimately it was just because I was so dislocated between my brain and my body. So it's like I was walking around in this thing that I couldn't connect in. It's like driving in a car when you haven't learned to drive. I can't connect with this thing that I'm expected to move around in. Yeah, it's only been the last few years where I've found that integration. And now I have this dialogue with my body rather than a conflict with my body. And I let it be messy.
I mean, the contrast, messiness and on the one hand and ballet. And I should say to people listening who haven't yet read the book, but will, that, and there will be a test, that, you were, lots of little girls do ballet, but you were really serious, weren't you? And you more or less got into the Royal Ballet School at 11. You only didn't get in because you said you didn't want to go.
Yeah.
and then we're offered another place at 16. I mean, that's a serious level, of discipline.
Yeah. No, it really was. It was most evenings, all weekends. It was everything. Yeah, it was everything. Well, it wasn't everything, but it was one of those things, which was everything. But it's, also growing up in Cornwall, we didn't have a car, didn't have any money. And I think that's a really good example of, my family never saying no. Even though it was hard, they didn't want me to be in ballet. They could see it was messing up my body. They could see it was causing me pain. They could see how stressed I got, how much pressure there was. My mum would very happily have let me give up. I think she was basically waiting for me to say, I'm going to stop now. But I pushed myself. No one else pushed me. I pushed myself. And even though they would have absolutely hated me going away at 11 to the Royal Ballet School, it really would have been their worst nightmare. They never said that. It was never anything but encouragement. And it's like, do you want to do this? And I'd say, yes. Okay, let's make it happen. But for instance, at one point in my late teens, I was 15, I think, and I was dancing with a company in London. So we'd get the sleeper train after school on a Friday, travel through the night, get to London 5 or 6 in the morning, and then rehearse, dance, perform Saturday, Sunday, and then get the sleeper train back Sunday night, do my homework, change into my school uniform and go straight to school. And it's just an enormous sacrifice as well that, my family made to do that, to make that happen. And it was never made to feel like a sacrifice.
You say something in the book about, the fact that dancers, like sports people on the whole, can't go very much past 30, certainly into late 30s. You talk about broken dancers at 30, and you said something, what do broken dancers think of their mothers? Oh, it's so interesting but your mother wasn't a stage mother, was she, in that way?
No, the opposite. Very much the opposite. I don't know where this internal pressure that I put on myself came from, because it definitely didn't come from my family or from anyone else at all. It was just something in me. But I think I always had that. I think perhaps my reaction to chaos or to uncertainty or precarity in, the environment around me was to just be really good at school, to work really, really, really hard. And then, I liked ballet. Okay, I'm going to work really, really hard at ballet. And I'm not even a competitive person. I would be like, oh, okay, I've won that thing. Or, oh, that's nice. Okay, I've passed that audition. Or I wasn't even competitive, but it was just an escape, I think, in some ways. Nothing exists when you dance. There's nothing like it. It's just exquisite. I think as close to something celestial that you can experience.
In the book, you call it the other place, going to the other place.
Yeah.
Might be a stretch, and you can just say, no, Sam, that's ridiculous. Does digging take you to the other place? I feel ridiculous saying it, but I'm just...
You're absolutely right. I wouldn't describe it as a celestial experience.
No. Like I said, it's a stretch.
But there is something elemental. When I was in sort of ballet mode, you're just made of air. You are air. And when I'm digging, I'm earth. And so I think there is something which is quite meditative or otherly, or, I have no sense of time when I'm in the garden. I'll say to the kids, I'm just going to go and, potter about a little bit. 6 hours later, I'm like, oh shit, I need to make dinner. I've got no sense of time. Everything just fades. Everything just fades. And I need it. I just really, really need it.
How did when you stopped dancing, I don't know when that was, did you miss the control that ballet gave you over yourself, if anything?
I think I'd become pretty masterful at finding many outlets of control. Mostly very dysfunctional. It's a really insightful question, because there isn't anything that could fully replace, the ballet world. But I'd got to the point where I didn't want to replace the ballet world, and I knew that. But it certainly left me with various mechanisms and strategies and behaviors that weren't serving me for as long as I thought they were.
At what point did you have puberty? Because ballet notoriously sees that off, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, no. I didn't really have puberty. No, it genuinely didn't. This is probably a massive overshare, but I think you and your listeners are very comfortable with overshare. I actually only got my first ever natural period 2 years ago, and I'm 42 now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So how did period come on? How did your first period come?
They forced it. They put me on like the pill and sort of hormone treatment to make me have puberty at 16, 17. And
God.
It was absolutely insane, because I went from being like a little sparrow. I remember, because there was like Easter holidays or school holidays or something. And when I came back, I was suddenly like, woohoo! I had like huge boobs. I had hips. I was just like, and I remember my friend asked if I'd had a boob job. And I was like, no, they put me on the pill. So it just sort of accelerated it. And for me, that was like, if I couldn't understand or live in or inhabit my body before, I sure as hell couldn't when it just dramatically changed. So yeah, that was strange. And I think ever since I've had, quite a dysfunctional, just been very dislocated and detached from all those natural sort of cycles and the understanding of them, which growing up in the 90s, we didn't have. No one even used the word period.
No. I would say not until 2010. Maybe a little bit before. It was still not a thing, really.
No, it wasn't a thing. I mean, menopause has only just become a thing.
Yeah.
Anything to go back to, anything that isn't about the straight line of sense everything that's more about circles and cycles and messiness. I don't think I've ever said the word messiness so much in the past 48 minutes as I have. I'm sorry. I'll need to think of a better word.
No, but also messiness is it's really interesting talking to you because you're coming at it from a kind of a different place than a lot of other people. But I think that what it boils down to, and tell me if I'm kind of putting words in your mouth, but it feels like that is what it is about this kind of life stage that you're coming into. And I'm well through, but it is, the mess becomes okay.
Yeah.
In a way, you come out the other side and you're like, what? Why have I spent so much of my life trying to shove things in boxes and keep them there, but also shove myself in a box and keep me there?
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just that messiness is okay. It's just that the messiness has always been okay.
Yes, if only we'd
always been okay. From teenage onwards, we're expected to have a ladder approach to life. Do school, do GCSEs, then do A-levels, then go to university, then get a good job, then buy a house, then get married, then have children. That is how your life must go. I don't know if it's the same for the current generation, but certainly it was for me growing up. And, not through pressure from my family, but it was just expected. It was just, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this.
Just what you did.
Just what you did. And if you didn't do it, what's wrong with you? Or you must be failing in some way. And I think, God, it's just really nice to get to 40 and think, I've never had a proper job, but I'm doing all right.
A proper job.
A proper job. And, even if you'd asked me last year, because I'm a massive hermit, like I basically hardly leave the house, and in a good way, I think. I don't know. I should probably challenge myself a bit more to leave the house. But I think even if you'd asked me like last year, I'd said, I don't really like people coming to the house because, everything's always a mess. And I've got an absolutely bonkers dog and I've got so many chickens and the garden is like a work in progress and, all those things. And
it's not perfect.
Yeah. Even my closest friends, if they come to the house, I'm like, sorry, I haven't done the dishes. I haven't done this. And then I'm just resorting that bit. And, that bit of the garden looks bad, but I've got an idea for it, and I'm delivering this litany of apologies to even my closest friends. And actually it's been a shift just in the last year, maybe not even the last year, of me going, right, from now on, it's open house. You can turn up, whoever it is, doesn't matter. And my dishes will be moldy and my dog will be absolutely bananas. And there will be animal hair everywhere, probably chicken poo. And I will be wearing shorts that I've slept in for 6 weeks. And that is fine, but it's taken a long time to get to that point.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay, oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
One of the things that really interested me when I was reading your book, but also I think just because the kind of kid I was growing up and how important, female writers were to me, was when you start talking about being the girl who read, wanting to be the girl who read.
Wanting to be the girl who read Woolf, yeah.
And I was fascinated that she was the only woman in a box of 10 classics that you were sent. Not surprised, actually, speaking as someone who, we had a few of those, those hardback classics that kind of they probably came from door-to-door salesmen or maybe even decades earlier. The only ones I can really remember are What Katie Did and Ivanhoe. Anyway, you were lucky you got Virginia Woolf. Can you tell me a bit about your kind of the literary women who made up, as you put it, your coven?
When I was growing up, the culture I was exposed to was very woman, creative, feminist. The music that was always on was Joan Armatrading and Tracy Chapman. And,
brilliant. And Tracy Chapman. Love.
Yeah, exactly. And the writing, the books that were around me, the adult books, there was a lot of Jeanette Winterson. I remember on the shelf it said Sexing the Cherry, and I was like, oh!
Oh my God, I love that book. You must have been like a toddler or something when you saw that book.
I remember being like, can't believe my mum's reading a book that says the word sex. Certainly the reading was skewed that way. My auntie had gone off to college and then to university, and she was studying English, and she was kind of really ardent feminist. And so I think there was this sense of reading books or being aware of books that were not necessarily mainstream. You know, there's a lot of, we had Maya Angelou, we had Toni Morrison, we had a sense that you don't have to read the classics and think this is what a story is. There's definitely none of that. And then I went to school and got a lot of that. I was like, these are the authors who are important, and they're all men and they're all dead.
Except for Bronte and Austen, yeah.
I didn't even get much of that actually at school.
Oh my God.
No, we didn't.
No, we were allowed them, but only them. We
did a lot of war stuff and old stuff. But then I had two brilliant English teachers at secondary school, both women. One in particularly was like firebrand feminist, firebrand. She was really catalytic for me and my reading in challenging what writing should be or could be, or what a story should be or could be, and introduced all of us, but I just lapped it all up, to so many amazing writers, to critique fiction through the feminist lens. I think, I was only sort of 13 or 14 where she gave us this amazing lecture about the male gaze. And when you're that young,
wow, yeah,
especially because I was in a predominantly male school. They'd only recently let girls in. It used to be a boys' school.
So that was when you went to posh school at
11 or 12,
school,
yeah. And so she felt quite revolutionary. There are certain teachers and they've got like a little office that feels like a bohemian studio, and you just love going in there. If you were asked to go and get a book or something, you're just like, oh, you're so cool. She was one of those figures for me.
Like your Dead Poets Society teacher, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So she definitely influenced how I read and what I read. And then I had quite a grandiose phase where I was like, I will only read the most pretentious adult,
So what qualified as grandiose then?
Oh, man. I think I tried to read War and Peace many times just because it was the biggest one and the hardest one. What else qualified? Well, I think, to be honest, Woolf qualified as grandiose. She was sort of this icon of what intellectual but cool women liked. And I was like, okay, well, I want to be in their gang, so I'm going to bloody well like her. And I was just, the disappointment was immense when I was like, this is shit. Why am I don't get it. This is so dull. And it took a while to get into her, but then I did, and I'm glad I did.
So who kind of qualifies for a place in your literary coven?
Oh, man. Well, actually, probably it has been called the weirdest acknowledgements of any book ever. The one.
Yeah, I have read them. Yeah, no, I love them. I love them. And I love that I didn't realise I was reading the acknowledgements until I was about halfway through.
Yeah. But I list my female coven of writers in there. And I think I say something about, the people who put an I-hood on the page before my I-hood began. And I think there's something in women writers who were bearing witness, whether that's through fiction or non-fiction or poetry or more often, because marginalized voices have to, non-fiction disguised as fiction. But people who have found innovative and creative and meaningful ways to interrogate what this business of life is. And quite often through their writing, challenged the idea of a narrative tradition itself. They've shaken something up and paved a way for saying not only can life be different, but writing can be different too.
When did your I-hood begin?
Whoa, that's a great question, Sam. Oh, whoa. Okay, I'm going to have to really think about that. Off the top of my head, maybe it was when I turned 40.
I love you for saying that.
I think it was.
You couldn't be more on brand if you tried.
But I think it genuinely was. Yeah. Okay, yeah. My I-hood began at 40.
And how does that manifest? What is that? How do you know?
Because I know myself. And the parts I don't know I don't know. If that makes sense. It's not that I know myself as in I've resolved everything and I am a complete and, wise human being. I know the bits of myself that I need to know. And I know the bits of myself that are still a mystery. But they're a mystery that's a beautiful mystery and an unfolding mystery, not a trauma or a hidden mystery. And I am finally an I that is a body and a mind, that is successful and a failure, that is a mother and a human, that is messy and also somehow disciplined, and that is alive. And I think that's why I'm now an I, because I'm alive, not in relation to anybody else but myself. And maybe that's because I'm single and have been forever and probably will be forever.
I feel like I should stop there, but you just said something that made me want to ask you one more thing. Sorry. Which is when you just said about being single and you feel like you will be forever.
Yeah.
And both your gran and your mum left their husbands and didn't remarry. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's, as they would say at a literary event, that's more of an observation than a question.
Yeah, this is the bit where it becomes a therapy session, isn't it? Yeah, but I'm really proud of that, because the best lesson anyone can learn is that you don't need the institution of a relationship. We need the love and connection, but that's from any relationship. I get from my friends now something which is far greater than a romantic relationship and far more sustaining and nourishing. And again, I came really late to friendship. I mean, literally, really, like just maybe the last 4 years, 5 years. And now I would rather have my several closest friends and my family than any partner in the world. I'm not giving anything up anymore, ever. Nothing is worth giving up anything for. And it's a myth that love is. Fuck no. Love is not worth giving up anything for.
I could honestly talk to you all day. No problem at all. If the internet would let us and not like chuck us off when it considers we've had enough. I'm just going to ask you the questions I always ask at the end.
Yeah.
And I feel very sad that I can't make this episode 5 hours long. What is your emotional age?
Yeah, I love this question because, again, I had to really, really think about it. Sometimes I think I'm probably like 103 in the sense that there's pretty much no emotion now that will shock me or make me go, oh, what's this emotion and where's it come from? I've done them all. And I think I know how to manage them all. But also I feel like I'm still 5 because I find everything mind-blowing and curious and just like, wow. I say the word wow so much, like a toddler. Like, wow, that's amazing. Wow, that's amazing. About stupid stuff. So I think that makes me about 5. But I think the real answer is I won't know my emotional age until you take me off sertraline. And then I'll be able to tell you.
Oh, that's the best answer. Give us a book recommendation. Can be a lifelong favourite, or it can be, something you read last week.
Oh man, this is the horriblest question and I kind of hate you for it. But I have played Desert Island Discs in my head since I was about 10, waiting for the moment when I will obviously be on it, selecting my books. If you're interested in the stuff that we're interested in and the stuff that went into my book, I would read anything by Annie Ernaux, especially The Years. Just the ultimate confirmation that everything is messy and individual and collective and full of meaning, and it's bodies and time and memory and just all of that. So maybe that, but that's not my Desert Island book, so I don't know. And I also, this is cheeky because it's massive and it involves hundreds of different authors and all different styles, but it's New Daughters of Africa, edited and curated by Margaret Busby. If you could only take one book somewhere, I would take that because that's all you need. Oh, it's 100 years worth of writing It's got poems, essays, scripts, prose, memoir, everything, you name it, it's in there. And it's just brilliant.
What advice would you give younger women?
Get messy. Get rid of your lines and not the ones on your face.
Definitely not the ones on your face.
Definitely not the ones on your face.
Who is your old bird role model?
Well, that's easy. And I wish it was more original, but it's not. It's my mum. It's my mum. It's got to be.
I would have put money on you saying that.
Yeah.
It's interesting, actually, the number of people who, when they say that, when they say it's their mum or a female family member, they sort of apologise.
I know. I was really thinking about it in advance. I was like, I should say someone either profound or unexpected. And I was like, nah.
No,
my mum.
It's your mum.
She's perfect.
What's your superpower?
You probably want me to say digging, but it's not that.
No, I don't.
I think maybe it's resourcefulness, because I can literally make something out of nothing. I can take scrap wood that I find in a skip, which is my favourite hobby, and turn it into, Cluckingham Palace, which is where all my chickens live. And it's not cost a thing. Or I can take a really shit day or a really difficult encounter and find something meaningful and maybe even beautiful in it. So I think probably what I've inherited is you don't need much to make a lot. And I hope that's what I might pass on.
That's brilliant. I love that. Last one, how many fucks did you give?
I mean, you need to give me some areas for this. About how I am and about what other people think of me.
Yeah, you can make your own areas.
I mean, absolutely 0. About the welfare of chickens, 100. And about the state of the world, 1,000. But about myself, 0 fucks.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy The Shift and would like to show your appreciation, why not buy me a coffee? Go to www.buymeacoffee.com/The Shift with Sam Baker. You can hear a new episode of The Shift every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, please do rate, review, follow, tell your friends, because it really does help other people find us. And if you'd like to know more about my own experience of shifting, my book, The Shift, How I Lost and Found Myself After 40, and you can too, is out now in paperback.